This isn't going to be a fun one, sadly. In fact, this story that I'm looking at right now is sad for everybody involved. In fact, I would say this is a complete failure of societal standards to prevent situations like the one I'll be examining from happening. But at the very least, hopefully, we can use this as some kind of cautionary tale. So the story that's going around is this video that has been shared on Twitter and I assume other platforms, where there's been some documentary made of this OnlyFans girl, what's her name? Lily Phillips, who slept with 100 men in one day. And the aftermath of it is 48 minutes long. But this less than a minute long clip in particular is the one that's gained a lot of traction. This is moments after the act of sleeping with these 100 men in a day has happened. And we can just see her reaction, the reaction of the documentary filmmaker around her. And we can see what we can learn from this, and if she afterwards has learned any lessons from it as well. And yeah, it's not very happy, not very nice. But let's carry on, shall we?
When was the last time you ate?
I think I had a yum yum, and I think I had a sandwich, and that was and then the rest.
So, great way to start, right? So that's horrifying to start off with. But notice the tactic this documentary filmmaker, I imagine it's this gentleman, Josh Peters, notice the tactic he took straight away, which is that he's trying to bring her back down to earth. What's the last thing that you ate? Seems like a rather strange and innocuous question to ask somebody who's just been through what she's been through. And I think saying been through is the right terminology for it. But realistically, he's trying to bring her back into the room, back away from wherever her mind went. Because as it'll become clear, having 100 men literally in a line do that to her, one after the other, she went away. She, the actual human being, vanished for a time. And she was only a physical object to be used. Let's carry on.
It's not for the weak, girls, if I'm honest. It was hard. I don't know if I'd recommend it.
Why not?
I think if you're a different type of girl, it's very like...
Yeah, of course you wouldn't recommend it. And of course, this isn't for weak, supposedly, girls, but I don't think it takes a particularly strong person to allow themselves, a woman, to be used like that by 100 men. Women should know that if you are female and relatively attractive, you're going to have rows and rows and rows of men lining up to get a chance with you. She's just made it easy for them and advertised it and used it as an exhibition platform for her OnlyFans profile. And the worrying thing about this is as well, I imagine she's quite successful. She'll probably be one of those that's boosted in algorithms and on Twitter as some kind of success story. People do these kinds of puff pieces. The Daily Mail, for God's sakes, does puff pieces on these kinds of women, right? But they show the glamorous side of it. Oh, I make so much money. I don't actually work a real job. I don't have to do the drudgery of a 9-to-5 behind a counter at a shop. And I get to earn all of this money and go on these expensive holidays. But this is the actual reality of it. Because what she's subjecting herself to is a form of self-abuse, really. Because if she had any kind of respect for herself, she should know that sex is an intimate act that should be performed with somebody that you are intimate with and love, and she's instead turned it into a pure mechanical process and allowed herself to be treated as a prostitute, because she is a prostitute. In doing this, and doing all of the OnlyFans stuff, she is a prostitute and has turned herself into a prostitute. And she's coming to grips with that because she can't handle it.
It's kind of like being a prostitute in a sense of like, it's just a different...
Sorry, you are a prostitute. You chose this. It's awful to see the regrets that you clearly have. It's awful to see that you've come out at the other end clearly holding back tears. You do not like what you have done to yourself. You do not like what other people have done to you, because again, 100 men participated in it. They are complicit. People around her are complicit in this as well. Where was the family? Where were the decisions leading up to this? Where were the people saying, you shouldn't do this? Did she listen to them? Were there anybody? If there were, did she listen? Evidently not. This is a complete failure, but ultimately, she should be held accountable for the fact that she agreed to this. Because, again, she is a prostitute.
Feeling, I don't know how to explain it, like...
It's not like just having sex with someone.
Yeah. Just one in, one out, like it feels intense.
Like more intense than you thought it might.
Definitely.
So she doesn't really know how to put it into words what's happened to her. The only thing that she really knows about is consent-based morality. She consented at the beginning, all the men consented, presumably everybody else around it involved in the filming and production of it consented to it. So really, by today's moral standards, there's nothing wrong with what just happened. But she knows there's something wrong. She knows that she's been used. She knows that she's devalued herself in doing that. She's put herself through a shock trauma. But ultimately, she doesn't know how to explain that. She doesn't know how to explain that she's devalued herself because we're living in sexual liberated times. She's a woman, she's free, she's a girl boss. She can do whatever she wants with her body. She chose to do this. She agreed to do this. So what's the problem? And this is the one that was going around, but there's more clips released from the documentary. Again, I've not watched the full documentary, and I don't really plan to because it seems like it'd be quite a harrowing experience. But here's another one where she can't really fight back the tears anymore. What does she say here?
I think sometimes like feeling so like robotic, like by I think like the 30th, you know, like when we're getting on a bit, I've got like a routine of like how we're going to do this. And like, it just, sometimes you'd like disassociate and be like, you know, like it's not like normal things at all.
Literally, she went away. She buried her conscious self somewhere else and she became nothing. Because that's what you do when you allow this sort of thing to happen to yourself. Not that this is a common occurrence anywhere, but if you do this thing to yourself, you become nothing. You're not yourself anymore. You're a whole, to be crass. You're an object to be used. And that's what she's describing here.
In my head right now, I can think of like 5, 6 guys, 10 guys that I remember. And that's it. But it's just, I don't know, it's just weird, isn't it? Like... If I didn't have the videos, I wouldn't have known I've done 100, you know. But yeah, I think that was.
And just how it's difficult to describe. How detached is that from the whole situation? She knows what she's done rationally, but she's numb. She's completely lost all feeling. She's completely numb. It's horrible and sad to see, but ultimately she did it to herself. She's the one who made this decision. She has to live with it. And hopefully she can act as a kind of cautionary tale for people, because you get sold this glamorous lifestyle on OnlyFans through like Daily Mail articles, like I've already mentioned. This is the reality of it. If you want to picture what it's like for these girls, this is what you should picture in your head. The tears afterward, the feeling of worthlessness, the knowledge that you have destroyed yourself in a very important way. Her spirit has been crushed by this. It's horrible to see, but it's important that people see it.
It's kind of the hard part, is like conversing with them, and like when they'd kind of be like, oh, like we've only had 2 minutes or 3 minutes and you said 5 on the message.
Did someone say that to you?
Yeah. And obviously it just makes me feel so bad.
Do you think you should feel bad about that?
I guess when you've promised something to people who support you, it's kind of hard to let them down.
But it's up to you, right? Like when you know.
Yeah.
Have you even processed, do you think, what's happened?
Not yet. God, I won't forget this day, Jesus.
When I decided to start making this documentary, I wasn't too sure of what to expect. I certainly didn't expect to see Lily so upset at the end of it all.
And to the documentary, to this filmmaker as well, what's his name, Josh Peters, what did you expect? Why didn't you expect that? Obviously, ultimately, this was going to be turning into a deeply wrong, regretful experience. How did you not expect to see her in absolute tears by the end of this? But ultimately, again, you have done wrong by not trying to do something to stop this. The people around her have done wrong. The men who participated have done wrong. But she has done wrong as well. And you cannot forgive that, because ultimately she presents a picture of her life to the world as something to be emulated. And has she learned her lesson from this? Has she decided that she's going to take this part of her life away? She's going to stop doing this, stop earning the money, take herself out of the public eye and do something better, anything better, despite the fact that this has clearly damaged her for life. Has she? What do you think? No. No. She did 100 men. The first thing she did like a week after is say, it's going to be 1,000 men next time. It's the record-breaking event of the year, 2025. And if this is the picture that you have of her after 100, God knows what she's going to be like after 1,000. But this time, we don't know if there's going to be any documentary filmmakers. There's going to be no shoulder to cry on, no sympathy. You have made your bed, and now you're going to lie in it.